Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Gotta go forward, I suppose. No point going back. Very quick video today about why people would see a therapist, a counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever it may be, or even other type of practitioner. There are various reasons, obviously. One being why we want to explore our feelings in a secure environment, in a non-judgmental setting. Or we might just want to learn about how to handle various situations better, learn a bit about ourselves, I suppose. But one of the fundamental things, I think, why people see a therapist is because when we're children and we make our view and our understanding about the world, we are obviously conditioned about the experiences we have and interactions we have. So, for example, if you have a parent who will always tell you not to go outside and play because the world out there can be dangerous, full of dangers, cars, dogs, other children, whatever, you are going to grow up without necessarily the desire to be adventurous or to discover or to go out there and do things, because you will be formed with the idea that the world is a dangerous place and you need to be where you are to stay safe. So in a sense, your way of viewing and coping with the world will be incredibly reductive, because all you'll be doing is you'll be trying to keep as safe as you can and not ever do anything that's potentially risky in any sort of way. And I'm not talking here about swimming with sharks or, I don't know, wrestling alligators. I'm even talking about going on a date. People will break your heart. People will always do nasty things to you. Don't want to deal with people. So we grow up with these things, we grow up with this kind of way of seeing the world, and for whatever reason, life has a tendency to keep the way we construct the world, this kind of little world we make for ourselves, or I should say the way we understand the world, under wraps, and then experiences and years and whatever go up on the top of another, and they kind of keep this vision in a fairly secure place inside our psyche. Well, I should say here rather than here. But the point still is that after we create the world and we understand the world in a certain way, we also have ways to keep tabs on the world and to keep safe within that world. So, as the example before, people will always play tricks on me, laugh at me, and do me all sorts of injustices and attacks and invalidations or whatever. So therefore, I don't want to go on dates. I don't want to talk to people. So in a sense, our way of handling the world in this case is to remove ourselves from society, is to isolate ourselves. And that's the way that could very well work for us for a number of years. Now, what happens when the way we've always dealt with the world, or the way we've handled the difficulties of the world, starts to be toxic and just doesn't work for us anymore properly? That's maybe when we need to see a therapist, because it's not about a therapist all of a sudden teaching us about everything, but it's about the therapist helping us make sense of the way we deal with the world, and also try to maybe to help us understand whether the way we are handling the difficulties that the world throws at us is good for us. It's not a question of being correct or incorrect, but does that work for us? Is there a toxic way in which we've handling the world, or we've learned to handle the world? And also, therapists will remind you that everything we've learned can also be unlearned. So just because we've always done things in a certain way doesn't mean we cannot adapt and do things in a different way. The mind, and the human mind especially, is an incredibly adaptive organ. And it can learn, and it does learn and changes all the time. So even if we've learned to deal with the world in a certain way, which now turns out to be actually quite toxic and maladaptive for us, we can change. We can learn to deal with the world in a different way. Once we understand what it was that made us feel the world is this, that, or the other in the first place. So yes, you can go to a therapist to find guidance, to find somebody that will basically just like, when you need help with a puzzle, just another pair of eyes to figure out the puzzle of life with you and all the rest of it. And it might be that you go to a counselor or a therapist or whatever because you have a number of unmet needs. But a lot of people that I see, for a lot of them is more than that, is the realization that the way they've been coping with life just doesn't seem to be suitable for them anymore. And they're not quite sure how to break out of that cycle, because the way that we've internalized the world and learned about the world has turned out to be quite toxic and be quite unsuitable for them. So actually the people I see don't want me to save them, don't want me to cure them. And actually, any good therapist will probably tell you that you shouldn't aim for those things anyway. But what they really want to do is to find out if there are different ways in which they can cope with the world, ways which are not as toxic or maladaptive for them as they have been in the past. So maybe I can learn that the world isn't necessarily just a dangerous place, and I can go enjoy other people's company, for example. And the way to separate myself from the world, to save myself from pain, can be achieved by potentially different things, or just by accepting that sometimes pain happens. There's various scenarios. So a message to you today is, I hear a lot of people when I meet them for the first time say, oh, I just want to find out about myself, or I don't really have any goal in mind, I just don't feel right at the moment. And I think before we even engage in any form of therapy, whatever that therapy may be, is that we sit down and we figure out exactly what it is that you want to achieve. And you might not even know consciously at the time, but at least we kind of try to figure out the area that we need to work on. Is it acceptance? Is it this skill learning, if you like, psychoeducation? Or is it just the fact that the way I'm dealing with the world isn't working for me anymore? There you go. I hope that was certainly useful for you. And if you feel that you are in a place where, these are questions that you need to ask yourself, question yourself first. Then maybe go and see somebody if you feel that's right for you. Have a good rest of the week now.